So the future of Xbox seems a little bit, I guess you can say, uncertain in some ways. Revenue's down. Phil Spencer's talking about doubling down on multi-platform games, Xbox, first-party games, coming to more platforms, PlayStation, Nintendo, things like that. And the future of actual, Xbox hardware. Does it mean Xbox, is going to be, I guess, sort of dumbing down on their hardware and kind of, not putting less attention on that? Or are they still going to be focusing a bunch on hardware? What's the plans, especially with games coming multi-platform? What's the sell on their hardware at that point? We're going to be talking about all that here in this video. There's been multiple different reports that have come out through the past few days that I thought were interesting ones to talk about here in this video. And some of them, we're gonna actually move a little bit backwards. And the reason for that is the reports on what Phil Spencer said about, Xbox and multi-platform games, different things like that. That came out a couple days ago. And then in terms of the revenue side of things, that's a little bit more recent, but I want to move backwards and start with the revenue portion, because I think we start with the revenue portion first and discuss that part. Then when we move backwards to what Phil Spencer said, it kind of makes a little bit more sense than doing it the other way around, if that makes sense. So anyways, if you guys enjoy this kind of, content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more, and let me know what other kind of videos you'd like to see here on the channel. We do a lot of sort of stuff like this, gaming news, discussions, some gameplays, reactions, things like that. And if you're into Nintendo-based content, check out links in the description below for my Nintendo channel. It's going to be a good year over there. Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out, and I'm excited. It's going to be fun. So let's go ahead and jump straight into this. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to start with some of the revenue reports that are they're coming out. So the first thing first, this is coming from, I believe it was Tweaktown, I think it was called, the website. And I'll throw it up on screen. You guys can see what's being said in terms of Xbox and revenue, things like that. So it says, in terms of Xbox, Microsoft mentions that a business highlight is the 2% increase in content and services revenue. It's said to have been driven by growth in Xbox Game Pass. Previously, the area grew by a whopping 61% back in FY25 Q1. As expected, the hardware revenue unfortunately has suffered another decline by 29%. That is a lot. While the gaming revenue declined by 7%. So essentially, I guess the Game Pass growth has increased very slightly, while the hardware has decreased significantly, and the software, a decent little chunk. Back in October, Microsoft predicted the results for Xbox in the in FY25 Q2 very accurately, as it turns out, and you can kind of see that section kind of highlighted with the green bar down below. I'm not going to read all of that, but they were talking about, of course, the launch of Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, different things like that, which unfortunately is also taking a little bit of a hit. It's not doing so good, and I think that factors in to some things that Xbox and Microsoft are doing. But let's talk about some more of the revenue. This is another post that we're getting from the same website. So it says, in the recent Q2 FY25 earnings call, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, if I'm pronouncing their name right, gives a quick update on Xbox. He said, "We are focused on improving the profitability of the business in order to position it for long-term growth driven by higher margin content and platform services, and we're delivering on this plan. Black Ops 6 was the top selling game in on Xbox and PlayStation this quarter, and saw more players in this launch quarter than any other paid release in the franchise's history. And we saw rave reviews of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which has been already played by more than 4 million people. We also continue to see strong momentum for Xbox Cloud Gaming, with a record of 140 million hours streamed this quarter. All up, Game Pass sets a new quarterly record for revenue and grew its peak PC subscriber base by over 30% as we focus on driving fully paid subscribers across endpoints." Now, before we get to what Phil Spencer said, I want to quickly dissect this just a little bit, because there's a few different things I want to mention, especially with Black Ops 6 that they're mentioning, right? Because yes, that is true. They're saying Black Ops 6 was the top selling game on Xbox and PlayStation this quarter. It's seen more players in its launch quarter than any other paid release in the franchise's history. This is all true. But if you look at where we're at now compared to the launch kind of the game, it's not good. We have declined at this point. There's a lot of people that have moved on from Black Ops 6. They are annoyed with the state of the game. It's full of hackers and cheaters, and it's just unbalanced. past. There's a lot of kind of AI that is being implemented, and it's not that AI is necessarily bad. It's that how do you use the AI is what's either good or bad, right? If you're creating AI generated content, or if you're using AI to potentially, they haven't really done this as of now, but if you're using AI to replace voice actors and replicate their voices, I mean, these are murky waters that I think no one really kind of likes or appreciates. Even those are not ways to use AI. There's ways to use AI to make your workflow a little bit smoother that is not creating generated content, if that makes sense. In terms of the voice acting, you know, they've not yet done that as far as I'm aware. I may be wrong. They might have done it a little bit. Maybe I can't remember, but there's this whole thing, especially with the zombies actors, where they're having some issues with them, right? They've already had a couple of them drop out and stuff because they had no protection in their contracts against their voices potentially being used with AI and things like that. So basically, for the companies to use, Activision to use AI to replicate their voices for further dialogue, so they have no protection. So of course it makes sense from their standpoint why they have an issue with that, and it's not good in terms of AI generated content. I mean, we've seen it, right? There's been a lot of the banners and stuff, and a lot of the artwork has been AI generated from what it seems. And you kind of get the sense of that when something is AI generated, right? It's like AI is advanced significantly, but yet it feels lifeless. There's a lot of life getting sucked out of it, and because you're losing that human touch. And so what we're essentially getting is all of this. And this is, I think, a large part of it is Microsoft's fault, because I think Microsoft has really been pushing with AI. And so maybe to some degree that implementation with Black Ops 6 has been that as well. So all that to say, when we see declines in what's going on with, hardware and software and stuff, Xbox is just not in a good place. And even the stuff that has been strong for them, like the Black Ops 6 launch, is now not in a good place either. So that's kind of the point I'm making. So where do you go from here, right? If you're Phil Spencer and anyone else, that is part of the decision-making process, what do you do? Well, Phil Spencer did reply, not reply to this specifically, but he did have a couple things to say that we'll talk about. So let me throw up the first image on screen so we can take a look. So this is from his latest chat with Gamertag Radio. Phil touched on this issue again, saying that they're going to continue to ship more of their games on more platforms, and specifically, when referencing PlayStation, Nintendo, and Valve's Steam service. So this is what he says. Phil Spencer says, "I want everybody to be able to play on Xbox, and it does mean more of our games shipping on more platforms, not just PlayStation. We love the work that we do with Nintendo. We love what we do with Valve on Steam, and that's going to continue. We'll just continue to do more of it." And then he goes on to say, apart from Xbox wanting to make its games more accessible to consumers, he also explains from how from a developer's perspective, creators want their games to be played by as many people as possible. He says, "The thing that I've learned and continue to learn when I'm listening to creators is every creator out there wants to build a game that can find as many players as they want, right? We're not going to put walls up around where people can engage with the great games our studios are building." So again, this is the whole idea of bringing software to more platforms and more software to more platforms. But let's go ahead and check out a second quote real quick, and then we'll discuss. So he said, it goes on to say, if you've been wondering, how exactly he feels, Spencer believes hardware remains a critical part of Xbox's business. So this was the software, now we're talking about hardware. So he says, our own hardware, I think it's fundamental to what Xbox is. It's not lost on me. He says, I've said over and over that box is in the name of our brand. So I'll say in the position I'm in, I look at the hardware as a critical part of what we do, but not trying to gatekeep the games off of other places. He elaborated a little bit on the future of Xbox's hardware and things like that. He says, let's go build innovative hardware that people want to use to play, whether that's in their hands, whether that's on their television, or even other places. And I love our hardware team. I spent some time with them just this week, he says, in the roadmap that they have. So, end quote. So we got a little bit of software, a little bit of hardware. We're going to talk about both. Let's quickly start with the hardware. I think it's a little bit easier to talk about. If you're bringing software across to all these different multiple platforms, then what is the point of hardware? He basically says, and I've heard him say, I think a little bit more detailed in other places that is not fully fleshed out in this quote, but he's basically said that with hardware, they want to build hardware that has features within the hardware itself that is what makes people want to play on those systems. Not necessarily that they're driven to the console for the games, but for the experience, right? Which makes sense. You know, like for example, Nintendo with the Switch, I mean, they're one of the best selling consoles. Now, obviously people buy Nintendo consoles for the Nintendo games. Let's be honest. That's a huge part of it. But another part is that Nintendo innovates. They have special, unique, fun, kind of innovative consoles that, you know, nobody else really does. Nintendo's always breaking the formula. They're always trying to figure ways to like innovate. They're always trying to figure ways to make things better and bigger and just more fun. They just want to create fun experiences. And so I think that's why Nintendo's been so successful with their hardware over the years, is not just the amazing software. Now, obviously keep in mind, right? If you had Nintendo software on other platforms, you probably would see a decline to some extent on the Nintendo hardware. And, you know, as a side note, it's a little bit ironic to say because, you know, there was years ago, people were like, oh, you know, Nintendo's going to fail. Xbox is going to buy them. And, you know, you're going to see Nintendo games on Xbox platforms. And it's just a little bit ironic that now the reverse is happening. Obviously that would never happen in Nintendo as long as they keep doing what they've been, you know, doing all these years, and they stay true to their vision and to their goals and to what's made Nintendo a company all these years. I think Nintendo has many more years of success, you know, in ahead of them, as long as they continue to do that. Now, some people argue, well, the Switch 2, right? That's not super innovative. Yeah, but they've done this before, right? The DS to the 3DS, right? The Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance, things like that. So this is nothing new. But anyways, we're not talking about Nintendo. That's for the Nintendo channel. But the point is, it's like, that's kind of what's going on with Xbox. They're like, well, you know, we're gonna just try to create innovative consoles that people enjoy. So at the end of the day, here's the thing. Here's the problem. When you're talking about hardware, in terms of like features and innovations with hardware, PlayStation has the better hardware, not in terms of graphic capabilities necessarily, but in terms of features. We're talking about features. Look at the DualSense controller. It has a lot of features that the Xbox controller doesn't have. Just for one example, right? You have the adaptive triggers. I mean, these are things that maybe some people don't care about. I'm the kind of person, I like these little kind of quirky different features that I think add a little bit of cool extra, you know, immersion and features to games. You know, with the of course their haptic feedback and you know, different elements like that, right? They just have better features within just the controller itself. And so when you think about stuff like that, it's like, well, Xbox is gonna have to think outside of the box, you know, no pun intended, maybe some pun intended, to kind of innovate that beyond what they're doing right now, and what both PlayStation and Nintendo are doing better in terms of hardware. Like both of those, like Xbox in terms of hardware features and innovation, I don't think they right now, as of right now, they haven't had much of a pull, right? They have slightly, on paper, the Xbox Series X should be slightly more powerful than PS5, if I recall correctly, but yet the PS5 sells better. Why? Because it's just a better experience. People like the experience better as well. Plus, of course, the first party titles help a lot with the titles that, you know, Sony's producing compared to Xbox. Now with Xbox, they're talking about software, bring software to other platforms. They also got to better their software, because games like Halo Infinite, they just underperformed. And so you think about, you know, games like Gears of War, where's that going? Well, we got a prequel to the Gears of War trilogies coming out. Hopefully that's going to be good, and hopefully they can kind of get the, you know, what kind of made people fall in love with the series originally, kind of, you know, capture that again. But in terms of, you know, all the other first party, you got Fable, right? A lot of people were kind of like mocking the main protagonist in Fable, and just like, it's just a, you know, the character just seems a little goofy, I guess you could say, some people found. And so there's just so many different things, right? Halo Infinite, it wasn't hitting right? Both multiplayer and the campaign just didn't feel the greatest. It just didn't feel like, you know, what Halo used to be. And they're trying to recapture that. We've talked about that recently here on the channel. So in terms of software, you know, it's very likely, I mean, we've already seen a bunch of games come over, like Sea of Thieves, I think is a big one, that, you know, is pretty good for multi-platform. But I think we're going to be seeing like Halo, even like their biggest games, Halo, you know, Gears of War. These are going to be coming to other platforms, right? The Nintendo Switch 2, you know, there's a lot of talks of like, you know, a lot of more third-party games coming over there. Like there's talks, for example, Final Fantasy VII Remake being playable on the Nintendo Switch 2 because of what is supposed to be, you know, the power that the Switch 2 is going to be able to produce. So can we end up seeing things like even Gears of War, maybe like at lower settings, and Halo on the Nintendo Switch 2? I mean, it's possible. It's kind of a weird era that we're living in, but it's possible. Obviously, I don't want to personally, I would never, you know, I don't care how hardcore of a PlayStation fanboy you are, or Nintendo or whatever. I would never want to see Xbox fail. I want to see them find footing and be strong and at least somewhat successful in what they do, because healthy competition is good for everybody, really, at the end of the day. It pushes the companies to do better, and that, of course, mostly the gamers and the consumers benefit the most out of that. So anyways, this is kind of a little bit of a lengthy video. There's a lot to say, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below about all of this, man. It's crazy. I mean, is Xbox failing? I think Xbox is clawing to find a way to kind of hold on and find something to find their footing. And you know, hopefully hopefully we don't just see Xbox become entirely obsolete as a brand in the next decade, because that'd be, you know, really sad to see. But they're bleeding money, it seems like, right now, and so they need to find a way to kind of, you know, bring that back and just find some footing and whatever, you know, having their games on multi-platform. You know, I think at this point it is a good idea. And what happens with the next Xbox hardware, hopefully they find really good, innovative kind of features that just kind of, you know, add these cool fun. Like, again, take inspiration from Nintendo. At the end of the day, take inspiration from them, but find your own way to make something, you know, more innovative and just fun and unique. And I think if they do that, then the next Xbox hardware could sell great, even if they choose to bring their software multi-platform. But yeah, it's a crazy topic at the end of the day, guys. It's been a long video. I'm sorry. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you guys soon in another one. Let me know your thoughts. Until then, game on. Catch you guys later.
Hey you! What are you doing? Join the Skeleton Army! Do it today! Don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow might never come. The Earth is gonna fade, that's inevitable. The next second of your life's not even promised, so you better think about where you're going, and you might as well just join the Skeleton Army. Plus, we do kind of like you a little bit, so it'd be nice to see you around here. But if you don't want to, hey, your loss. See you later.